You're listening to DruidCast, episode 203.
I went to walking on a cold March day. Heard the blackthorn talking, and this is what they say. Rain clouds, even now the days are cold and grey. But we are here, and spring's not far away. The time has come, the in-between. Hedgerow is the flag of green. See the maiden dance and say to the spring, to the spring. I went to walking on a fine March day. Heard the flowers talking, and this is what they say. It is time, we heard the snowdrop cry. So out we come, see the sun, and on we rise. The time has come, the in-between. Hedgerow is the flag of green. See the maiden dance and sing to the spring, to the spring. I went walking on a late March day. Heard the birds are talking, and this is what they say. Evening song, here we come, with the sun we fly. Celebrate, aviate, lighting up the sky. The time has come, the in-between. Hedgerow is the flag of green. See the maiden dance and sing to the spring, to the spring, to the spring. The time has come, the in-between. Hedgerow is the flag of green. See the maiden dance and sing to the spring, to the spring, to the spring, to the spring.
Hello my friends, and welcome to DruidCast episode 203. I am your host Dave the Bard, and DruidCast is brought to you on or around the 20th of the month by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. If you want to find out more about membership to the Order and our courses, you can do that at our website, which can be found at druidry.org. I am so excited to play that opening song. That was the title track of my new album, Raise the Flag of Green, out now on all the streaming platforms, with CDs and downloads available on my website at paganmusic.co.uk. That song is a celebration of spring when the hedgerows suddenly burst into life with that glorious green that is only around between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. After that, it gets a little bit darker, but right now that colour is everywhere here in the south of England, and the hedgerows have well and truly raised the flag of green. And I'll be playing another song from my album later on in the show. This month's Talkie Bit is a presentation given by author and witch Rachel Patterson at this year's Wild Witchcraft Conference, the theme of which is the goddess Sulis. It was a fascinating talk, and a big thank you to Rachel for allowing me to record the talk and let you all hear it here on DruidCast. So, grab your cuppa, chill out for a while, and enjoy this month's Talkie Bit.
The Talkie Bit.
So I first met Sulis quite a few years back now. Pete, or as he's known on a Wednesday chats as the hand that brings my tea. We went to Bath just for a weekend to get away from kids, basically. And it's beautiful. We fell in love with the city. It has such an amazing energy to it. It's a lovely mix of old and new, and of course it's got the Roman baths. The first time we went, it was the evening when we went to the baths, and it was all lit up with torches. Flaming torches, not, your ready battery-powered ones. And it was amazing, and it was beautiful. And actually, having mentioned Roman, I apologise to all of the Druids here for mentioning Romans, because they weren't a big fan of Druids, were they? But they built a fantastic Roman baths, and we have them to thank for an awful lot of the English deity information, because they wrote it down, and ancient Britons didn't. So I found Sulis there. I knew there was an energy. I knew there was something that made me feel at home, because that's how I felt there. It was only a little while later that I realised it was the Sulis connection, and she's been walking with me ever since. So today, this is all about her. You may have seen this, which I snuck on the stage earlier. This was commissioned by me from Susie Edwards Goose, the Ink Witch. I've written a book, of course I've written a book about Sulis, out in September. And I said, do you know Sulis? Oh, yeah, And that's all I said to her. And I think she captured her perfectly. So that's the book cover. So there's going to be a bit of history, and there's going to be quite a lot of Roman stuff. And then we'll get on to personal gnosis, because with all of the English deities, that's pretty much all we've got to go on. But what I'm going to do with Sulis is show you how to work out your own correspondences, your own connections based on archaeological evidence, local evidence, lots of evidence, basically. Our story begins in the most amazing Mendip Hills. The springs themselves being around, check the figure, 12,000 years old. Sulis is ancient. She is that old. Rain falls. It works through the limestone. It goes through the rocks. It then does something magical. And although the scientists understand a bit of the process, they don't understand why it then suddenly comes up in Bath. 3 springs of hot water. 3 springs that pump, more figures, 1.44 million litres, which in old money is over 300,000 gallons of water to the surface every 24 hours. And the temperature, when I say hot springs, 44 to 46 degrees C, 111 to 115 Fahrenheit. Ooh, yeah, ooh. Warm, basically. They are the only known genuine hot springs in the British Isles. And it contains 38 minerals, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but I think the minerals are what makes the water taste disgusting. It is revolting, but it is also, I think, what's given the waters their healing reputation because of all these minerals inside them. Actually, from the back, they probably look like fillets of fish. Thinking about it, they are.
Anchovies.
Anchovies. Oh yeah, I eat nearly everything, but anchovies, hairy fish. No, that's just wrong. They're not hairy fish. They are tools. They are flint spearheads, basically. Because in 1998, clever archaeologists did a borehole in the base of the springs, and they found, more figures, 494 stone tools. Now bear in mind the borehole was quite small. They reckon that there's probably 1,700 artifacts per cubic metre still sitting in the mud beneath the springs. But what these show is that it's ancient, because these, they think, were offerings from the Mesolithic period, which makes them about 9,500 years old. And whilst I feel that old some days, I don't remember it personally. But what it shows is that these Mesolithic people, they were hunter-gatherers. We're talking pre-farming. They were lobbing stuff in the springs. We're humans. For some reason, we are drawn to throw stuff in water. Any body of water that gets excavated, you'll find stuff in there. We throw it in there, including moistened bits with swords. But someone likes Monty Python. But what it shows is that Mesolithic man obviously, I don't want to use the word worshipped, but he obviously revered these hot springs. Let's be honest, it must have been totally bizarre for ancient man to think, what is this? What's this steam coming from the water? Because bear in mind, the springs then would have just been a pool in the middle of a field. So archaeologists believe that they were offerings. Because of all the tools that they've pulled up, very few of them are actually used. They're all brand new. So they believe that they were given as offerings to the spring, which shows how old it is. And obviously from there, you worship the spring. You honour the spring. Same with rivers, same with lakes. It happens with a lot of the English deities. At some point, it turns into a spirit of the springs. And then from that spirit of the springs, it gets a name. And this name is Sulis. And Sulis becomes a goddess. And that's kind of how the story goes. Thank you. Coins are a favourite to be thrown into water as well. Roll on a bit further from Mesolithic man, and apparently they've discovered that a gravel and mud platform was built out into the centre of the pool of springs. They think it might be that people could then walk out to the middle and give their offerings. There's also suggestion that it might just be that there was a specific person designated as a sacred keeper of the springs who walked out to the centre to give offerings. They're guessing. Educational guess, obviously. But a lot of them are coins, and the ones on the screen here, you might be familiar with the tribe, because British Isles was full of tribes originally. All of these coins here were from the Dobunni tribe, or Dobunni as I used to pronounce it. I'm not even sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, to be honest. But those where those coins were from, because the springs come within that area. That's probably an image you're familiar with. Anyone been to the Roman baths? A few nods. The green, actually, not beautiful colour. You wouldn't want to get in it though, because that's the algae and it can make you really ill. So don't do that. It wasn't green originally, obviously. The Romans called the town Aquae Sulis, which basically means waters of Sulis. Not very inspired. Better than the original name, which was Aquae Caldae, which was hot water. Thought a lot about that one. But in AD 43, when the Romans arrived, they loved the idea of a hot spring. They liked to have a bath, so they created the spa, and they built part of this. Some of it's modern, some of it's more modern, but they built the springs, the baths around the springs. The building likely 70 AD, somewhere around that. Bath wasn't actually a very important town to the Romans. There was no big army there, there was no administration, there was no council. It was purely, they think, just the attraction of having a bit of a dip, really. This you might be familiar with. This is the pediment of the temple. The Romans built a temple in the actual Roman baths for Sulis. They recognised that Sulis was the local goddess. And much as Romans liked to adopt other deities or steamroller them, depending on how they felt, they realised, I think, that Sulis was very important. So they called her Sulis Minerva, because they liked to tack on one of their deities. But the important part is that Sulis was the first part of that name, so they realised she was important. So they built her a temple. This is the pediment, or bits of it, I should say. We will come back to it to look at in detail in a minute, but this is quite imposing, and this is one of the first things that you see. And actually, I went with the Kitchen Witch girls. We sat there for a long time, didn't we? You can sit at the top of the steps staring at this, and it is captivating. There are only bits and pieces, but this would have sat atop 4 columns at the very front of her temple, with the famous Gorgon who's in the middle. But we'll have a closer look at him in a minute. Artist's impression, if you can see it from there. Rectangular courtyard. There's the temple at the end. That's the pediment bit that we just looked at. Quite impressive. Although all of this now is underground. There's very, very little of that left. And actually Sulis is really, really annoyed. Really bleep word. Because all of that is underground, and most of it is under Heather's face. Most of it's under the cathedral. Sulis is not impressed. We felt it, didn't we? The cathedral is very imposing. If you actually stand in where the main bath is and look up, the cathedral is looking down upon it all. But all of that now is in broken pieces, and most of it is under the cathedral. She's going to get her own back, I tell you. Thank you. They are. That's what's left of it. It's a bit sad, really, isn't it? These are parts of the altar. There's bits of the courtyard. This is what's left of the altar. It makes you want to cry, actually, doesn't it? But it's quite atmospheric. Because you're underground as well, you can really feel her presence there. The altar would have been quite impressive. It would have been a rectangle, and apparently it had 8 gods, Roman gods, 4 on each corner. Bacchus, Hercules, Apollo and Jupiter have been found. The other 4 they're not sure of. Neptune's got to be in there probably, and Minerva, you would think as well. Rituals would have been carried out on the altar, along with sacrifices. Of what sort, I really couldn't say. And there she is. There's Sulis Minerva, or her head. Her decapitated head, actually. Bronze head of the statue was found in an archaeological dig. It would have been slightly larger than life, and it's, as you can see, all bronze. It would have been incredibly impressive, particularly when it was in place. There's also a large stone tank that is in that spot as well, and it's got an inscription that says Spring of Sulis. Throughout the whole of the Roman baths, there are lots of inscriptions to Sulis, so we know how important she was. Back to the Gorgon's head. Now, I don't know what you guys think. They called it a Gorgon's head first because when they first unearthed it, they thought it was snakes. Medusa type snakes. If you look closer, it's actually hair and beard. Good. I don't like the golden idea. There are lots of theories, always theories. Some people thought that Sul, or Sulis, was male, was a god rather than a goddess. That's rubbish. I'm always right. Don't laugh. I think the fact that they called her Sulis Minerva says that she was a female. Some suggest it's the image of the god Belanus, which is the theory that I like to go with because I work with him too. Others feel it is just the image of a sun god with no particular name. A sea god has been thrown into the mix as well because of the water. Pontus, which is a fabulous name, an Olympian sea god, was suggested as well. That puts a bit of a Greek spin on it, and that doesn't work for me either. Some have put forward the idea that it's a sun god that just presided over the whole of the baths, that it is just a sun god that brings protection to the whole of the baths, which I'm okay with, as long as they call it Belanus. All of the pieces have been formed. Just fall over. All of the pieces from the pediment were broken, except this. All of the pieces from that huge pediment were broken into small pieces, except his face. That whole thing stayed as one piece, and I find that quite impressive and quite special. He's got ears in there somewhere. There are 2 snakes at the bottom, but the idea being like the Celtic torque that some used to wear. There's a description here from, let me find my words, Diodorus Siculus, you remember him, writing in the 1st century, and he states, this is a description of a typical Celtic male. Their aspect is terrifying. They look like wood demons, their hair thick and shaggy like a horse's mane. Some leave a moustache that covers the whole mouth. Horror of horrors. And actually, it does what he looks like, really, isn't it? That does describe him. It's open. It's open to whatever you might think it is, because there's no definitive on it. A protective image, perhaps even a severed head, because they did like their severed heads to bring protection. Maybe that's what he is. Maybe he's just a guardian of waters. Who knows? So let's have I'm going to take the notes with me. Let's have a closer look. So, lots of imagery here, lots of nods to solar powers. You've got the disc in the centre, but you've also got a shield and a wreath around it. Shield for protection, maybe. Wreaths, very Roman. Apparently, this wreath is oak leaves, which are very symbolic of Belanus again. Don't wear boots on stage with buckles on them. Open to interpretation again. A pointed star, you could just see it right at the top, often resembled the heavens, the planets, the stars, divinity. Victories, who are the 2 kind of angelic things. Can you call them a thing? Figures, that's the better word, on either side. Victory. Roman idea of victory, military or otherwise. There's 2 helmets at the bottom, which again, victory, war. There's an owl, symbol of Minerva perhaps. There's a dolphin in there as well, another symbol of Minerva. And then the victories are standing on spears, which could represent the world. And I say could, because we don't really know. But lots of different imagery brought together. And Belanus I've mentioned. Who is he? Because it's quite important here. He was another one that was around in Britain before the Romans. There's a couple of archaeological, I know they're just line drawings, but they're line drawings of real archaeological finds that mention him. And that's it. That's pretty much all we know. But he looks to have been a solar deity, so I think he works quite nicely with Sulis. This is from Sir Barry Cunliffe, archaeologist supreme, bit fangirl about him. He suggests that this is part of it, is all about the 4 seasons. And the important thing is that it mentions Sulis again. There is an inscription that reads of the goddess Sulis Minerva. But it also brings in a correspondence to Sulis of the seasons, because there were representations of all 4 in that. I'm speeding along now because I've got lots. More archaeology, altars and dedications. You'll find all of these in the Roman baths in the museum bit. All of them mention Sulis. They are all dedications or thanks for a vow. So probably Roman soldiers generally would have asked Sulis for something. She did it. They put an altar to her as their thanks. There is an interesting one. Thank you. This one's really interesting because it mentions a soothsayer. To the goddess Sulis, Lucius Marcius Memor, soothsayer, gave this as a gift. Interesting because soothsayer is mentioned, but it's actually mentioned, you can just about see it, using the word haruspex. And I'm probably not pronouncing that properly. This was a professional divination reader, a soothsayer, but one who reads entrails. Delightful. Human or animal, we're not sure. Could have been either or both. The interesting thing is that the Latin word haru and gut, and the Greek word for gut, added to the Latin word spex, basically translates as looks at guts. So that was his profession. Good afternoon, I'm a looks at guts. How may I read for you? There were also priests to Sulis. There have been mentions as well in archaeological finds, priest of goddess Sulis. The Roman baths themselves, they were transformed over time. By the end of the 5th century, there was little left, pretty much. People did keep throwing offerings into the water for a while, but it did. It got covered, it crumbled, it fell, it got covered by pavements and shops and damn great big cathedrals. So trying to unearth it all is a job and a half, because a lot of it is under all of the modern buildings, so they're never going to find it, they're never going to be able to access that, which is quite sad, really. Back to coins. 13,000 coins. And if you know the size of the Roman baths, the bit that's unearthed, it's not huge, but 13,000 coins have been found. Personal items, earrings, cosmetic box, spindle whorls, bronze bracelets, bronze earrings. Jewellery in particular, and the suggestion is that because Sulis was a female, they gave female gifts to the water. Others, parts of crossbows, gemstones, ring settings, perhaps given by tradesmen, craftspeople. Lots of various different offerings of all types, perhaps even what they just had in their pockets at the time. We have no idea. There's some of them. A lot of pewter. There's a tin mask. There is, the mask could have been, now here's the thing. She's called a goddess of healing. I would like to disagree with that. I think she's a goddess of justice and vengeance. I don't think she's a fluffy healing goddess. I think she's a kick-ass goddess who takes out justice when she feels it's necessary. The thing is, and we're back to Sir Barry Cunliffe again, all praise to him. He suggests that if she was a healing goddess, and I can see the connection, it's healing waters. If she was a healing goddess, there would be offerings of body parts. Not literal body parts, but in little ornaments and little carvings or whatever of body parts, because people would have put that into the water for the parts that they wanted healing. There aren't any of those. They don't appear in the waters at all, not that they've found so far anyway. So for me, I think the healing waters is a kind of secondary thing. There are cups with names on the rim, there are patterns, there are lots of pewter oddments that have Hadrian's Wall written round them, or names of the Roman forts, which I like to think were the first tourist gifts. Hey, I've been to Vindelander Fort and I brought back this cup. There are quite a lot of those, so we're assuming a lot of Roman soldiers put offerings in there to her as well. And what you're probably all familiar with, the curses. This is the good bit. This for me is one of the important bits. So 130 curse tablets have been found in the waters so far. This to me seems to have been her primary thing. She accepted curses, and they're all written on little squares of generally pewter. They are called defictiones, or something pronounced much better than that. A lot of them are for a stolen towel or stolen clothes. All what we would probably consider today to be really ordinary things, but these were important then. And so some of the curses are quite specific. Let's read you some. Some of the curses were specific. Some of them, and I will read you a quote here, the terminology of the practice of magic in antiquity is subtle, varied, and specific at the same time. The most frequent term in this terminology is defictiones, which means enchantment or binding, which I found interesting. The language on the curse tablets is mainly Roman Latin. There's Old Roman cursive, there's New Roman cursive. One of the tablets is actually written in a language that no expert has recognised thus far. The suggestion is that it might be ancient Brythonic. The suggestion is also that it might be someone that couldn't write. And actually just took I want to curse, but I can't write, so I'm just going to draw some wiggles on it, which is quite possible. We don't know. Who knows? They are in more, there's one in more detail. I think that's the Brythonic one. Some of them also suggest that they're not just words, that they might have magical symbols or sigils, Jonathan. Some are even written back to front, the actual words written back to front. Some may have been nailed to the temple wall. Others are folded or rolled and then literally just cast into the water. More than half the names on the curse tablets are Celtic, the rest are Roman. Most of them are badly written. Most of them have spelling and grammar mistakes, no spell check then. So when it comes to translating them, it does make it quite difficult. Their suggestion is that most people didn't have schooling, or much schooling, so they wouldn't have worried about spelling or grammar. They would have just, their intent about writing the curse would have been the important thing. A lot of them have lists. A lot of them have lists of names. So you'll have the curse on the front. May he who carried off Vilbia from me become as liquid as water. May she who obscenely devoured her become dumb. What they did, I'm not sure. But then it lists about 10 names of possible suspects, just in case the goddess needed a bit of reference. And actually, a lot of them are that. A lot of them will have, I've given to the goddess Sulis the 6 silver coins which I have lost. It is for the goddess to exact them from the names written below. And then there'll be a list of names. There are a lot of them, and there's some interesting ones. Whether pagan or Christian, whether man or woman, whether boy or girl, whether slave or free, whoever has stolen from me the 6 silver coins from my purse, you, lady goddess, are to exact from them. if through some deceit he has given me, and do not thus to him, but reckon as the blood of him who has invoked this upon me. And then again, there's about 20 names on that one, so he obviously wasn't sure who it was. So they're all pretty much like that. They're all asking for justice and revenge. And then a list. There's also the suggestion, and this is Sulis, Roman geographer writing in the 3rd century. Minerva is the patroness of these springs. In her shrine, the perpetual fires never whiten into ashes. When they dwindle away, they change into stony globules. So I like to think that there was an eternal flame burning there for Sulis. Back to the severed head. Romans saw Sulis had similar attributes to their own goddess Minerva, and actually we can draw from that. We can draw correspondences and ideas because we've got more information about Minerva. It's quite useful, I think. Minerva is a Roman goddess of crafts and trades. She's one of the 3 major Roman deities from the Capitoline Triad. Originally believed to be of Etruscan, however you want to say it, origin. She's a goddess of wisdom, weaving, science, the arts, and written laws, and she also throws a bit of war in there for good measure. So pretty much everything. So they obviously decided Sulis was very similar. I think perhaps the most important feature of baths is the water. Water is life-giving and life-taking. So it would have been very important in any kind of ancient Britain culture. The fact that it is hot just adds, double whammy really, bit of a bonus. And her name. We did a bit of etymology earlier. It's been a long day. So, language. Proto-Celtic translations of the word Suli, sun. It basically translates as sun. But Suil also means an eye, an opening, or an orifice. Orifice sounds horrible. Orifice sounds like, let's go with gap or opening. So her name is sun, but also eye and gap. And I think sun, obviously, because of the heat from the waters, but I think eye and gap is the spring coming up from the grounds. But I think eye as well has always been known as sharp-sighted, all-seeing, all-knowing. So I call on Sulis for divination as well. She is all-seeing, she is all-knowing, and that seems to fit quite nicely into it. She is a solar goddess, she is a protector, she is judge, she is jury, and the solar energy brings all of the associations that we have with the sun and also with the element of fire. Worship. I don't like the word worship. I walk with the deities. I have altars, probably too many. Altars are personal. Go with what works for you. This one is by Naomi Nomart, and this is Sulis as well, just in case you're more taken with that one. She sells those. What do we know to finish up? She's local to Bath only. Dedications, offerings, and mentions for her name are only found in Bath. She is the goddess of hot springs. She is accepted and presumably actioned curses. She can be called upon to make judgment and justice. Possibly a healing deity. She has seer abilities. She has divination skills. I see her absolutely as a solar deity. There's some evidence she can be called on for war and strategy. And there is the evidence that she may have had an eternal flame. She can be called upon for anything and she will do it quickly. She doesn't hang about. She kicks butt. She is not fluffy. She is very strong. And you will have to make your own journey with her because there is so little about her. So I'm putting all these notes here because I've talked about it all. The last thing I would like to suggest is making your own petitions, You're probably all familiar with petitions, writing on bits of paper. What about writing on a pewter tablet? Okay, what about writing on a bit of tin foil? It would work. It works. We don't often have bits of pewter that we can write on these days to give us petitions to the deity. Do it with a bit of tin foil and use just a knife or something to make your shapes, make your words on there. I think that works really well. This is King... I don't want to say this in front of Mara. King Bladud. B-L-A-D-U-D. Sometimes a double D. I'm going to finish with his story. There is a myth written by good old Geoffrey of Monmouth. The suggestion is that this king created Bath. When he was a prince, he was outcast from his father's palace because he contracted leprosy. He's forced to work as a lowly swineherd, and doing so, he spreads his disease to the pigs, which is really rude because pigs are fab, much better than humans. The pigs, however, being incredibly intelligent creatures, eat him. No, they didn't, but they should have. They should have done. They found their way to the natural hot springs. They bathed in the healing waters, and they were cured. The prince, realising this, followed suit, bathed in the hot springs himself, and lo and behold, he was cured. So he built Bath. The end. Which is a nice story. It's a load of old hogwash, but it's a nice story. No, I'm very conscious that I've done animals associated. Animals associated with her, taken from the artwork found in the baths. There's no definite, this isn't written down anywhere, this is my idea. And to finish up with the curses, because I know you like curses. There's a huge amount of information. There is a book, obviously, it comes out in September, but if you are interested, please do visit the Roman Baths. It's a fascinating place. You can also have a look online. They've got quite a good YouTube channel where they do talks and tours and things. If you are looking for Sulis, start with the archaeological evidence. If you're looking for any English deity, start with the archaeological evidence, because that's pretty much all we've got. Then you're on your own. But make it your own personal journey. She won't let you down. She'll kick your butt a few times, but she won't let you down. Thank you.
Let's do something beautiful no one will expect. Inspired something kind. Give and not collect. Let's do something beautiful. Dial a friend before they call. And if you hear them stumble, catch them when they fall. For the future's like a seed in our hands. It will better grow in soil than in sand. And we can plow and sow together, hand in hand. And watch the flowers spread throughout the land. Let's do something beautiful. Let's do something beautiful. Set our course and take the reins. There's a bright and better future. It's time to make a change. Let's do something beautiful. Go and play out in the sun. We've been too long in shadows. Let's go and have some fun, for the future's like a seed in our hands. It will better grow in soil than in sand. We can plough and sow together hand in hand, and watch the flowers spread throughout the land. Let's do something beautiful. Let's do something beautiful. Take the high ground. It's better to have sung your song than never made a sound. Let's do something beautiful. Set our sails to calm the wind, and leave the rats upon the shore. That's a race no one wins, for the future's like a seed in our hands. It will better grow in soil than in sand. We can plough and sow together hand in hand, and watch the flowers spread throughout the land. Let's do something beautiful. Let's do something beautiful.
It really was another great day at this year's Wild Witchcraft Conference, and following Rachel's talk you heard another track from this month's featured album, Raise the Flag of Green, and that one was called Something Beautiful, a message that what the world needs is more kindness, more empathy, more understanding. Well, my friends, that is a show, but before I go, let's have the results of last month's competition. The prize was a copy of Dana O'Driscoll's new book, Healing: Physical, Metaphysical and Ritual Approaches to Healing the Earth, and the question I asked was, Dana is the current Grand Archdruid of an American Druid order. What is the name of that Druid order? Well, the answer is the Ancient Order of Druids in America, and the first name drawn from the hat and winner of that fabulous book is Chris Hartman from North Carolina. Congratulations, Chris. That book will be with you very soon. The prize this month, well, no surprises really. It's a signed copy of my new CD, Raise the Flag of Green. And the question I'd like you to answer is, the title track, Raise the Flag of Green, is dedicated to which season? The title track, Raise the Flag of Green, is dedicated to which season? Email your answer along with your full postal address to podcast@druidry.org, and one of you will win a copy of my new CD. The sun is shining here in Sussex, and Oscar is looking at me with that look that says, why are you sitting here indoors? Come and take me for a walk. so the beach beckons. I will see you next month, my friends, for DruidCast episode 204. But until then, I wish you all, as ever, peace and blessed be. Goodbye.